Members, we're going to now go to a submission via Zoom, and coming to us via Zoom will be Hobson's Pledge Trust, and I think the submission will be from Dr. Don Brash.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you say, I'm representing Hobson's Pledge, which was named, of course, after Governor Hobson, who said in Te Reo at the time, as each chief signed, we are now one people, and we are firmly committed to the constitutional equality of all New Zealand citizens. I'll speak first, and my colleague Elliott will speak a little later and answer any questions. We strongly applaud the fact that the bill goes some way towards restoring the right for ratepayers to be consulted on whether they want racially based representation, a right taken away, of course, as previous people have noticed, by the previous government in 2021. At the same time, as the bill is currently worded, councils will still be able to create racially based wards unless private citizens undertake the very time-consuming and expensive task of gathering sufficient signatures to require a referendum. We believe that any council desirous of creating racially based representation should be obliged to have that decision tested at a district-wide vote. We support the fact the bill would require there to be referendum on the creation of Maori wards wherever those wards have been created since the Labour government changed the law in 2021, depriving citizens of any say on the matter. On the other hand, the bill would, if passed in its present form, leave a rather clumsy position in quite a number of areas. Clearly, if councils have decided, for example, to have a Maori ward in the last 12 months, they would have to have a referendum in the local body elections next year. But at the same time, the Maori wards would exist from that point on until 2028, even if the referendum held in 2025 voted against such wards. In Tauranga, it's even worse. They will not have a referendum this year when the election takes place in July this year. There will not be a referendum until 2028, which means that the Maori ward created at this time will be in existence for 7 years before the effect of any referendum would take effect. It would involve a lot less expense and inconvenience if councils which were resolved to create Maori wards, but which have not yet actually elected anybody in such wards, were obliged to have a referendum for the 2025 elections, with the creation of Maori wards only from the 2028 elections, if and only if, of course, the referendum in 2025 confirmed the desire for such wards. More generally, we believe that there's absolutely no logic for racially based representation, whether at local government or at parliamentary level. The proportion of Maori in elected positions in local government already corresponds quite closely with the percentage of Maori in the New Zealand population. And this was true even before the recent push to create Maori wards. New Zealanders should no longer tolerate racially based representation at local government level. Those who argue for racially based representation oppose the right of ratepayers to have a say on the matter, arguing that councils routinely create wards, for example, reflecting the interests of, say, farmers. But this is, of course, a totally false analogy. It implies that people who have a special interest solely because of who their parents or grandparents were. Racially based political representation should have no part in the New Zealand Constitution. At the parliamentary level, the proportion of Maori very considerably exceeds the proportion of Maori in the general population. As members will be aware, 7 of the 20 members of cabinet, namely 35%, are Maori. None of them elected in Maori electorates. We've simply gone past the time when Maori electorates or Maori wards were needed to get Maori represented in the political process. They clearly are strongly represented in the political process, and that is great. That's all I'd like to say, Mr. Chairman. My colleague, Elliott Ikilei, may want to add a few comments.
Thank you, Dr. Brash. Elliott, further from you.
Yeah, ngā mihi koutou. Kia ora koutou to you all. I'm not sure if you can hear me or not, but I'll just check to make sure. Oh, you can hear me, lovely. All right, so kia ora koutou. Absolutely wonderful to be here. I'm really, really honoured to be able to speak in front of you. I have joined Hobson's Pledge because I do see a lot of the racism that's coming up, and that is the segregational power that's been attempted to be foisted upon one race. It doesn't matter what the race is. In New Zealand, we have made it. As someone who whakapapas back to iwi, we've made it. We've made it to the table. Matua Don told us already about the fact that we've got 35% Māori in the cabinet area alone. We are in areas of business, of finance, of community work, of youth working work. It's wonderful. We need to be treated equally in order that we can all make it together. When we consider the ideas of international attempts to choose to segregate power to one race in particular, it never works out. Hasn't worked out in South Africa, hasn't worked out in Malaysia, hasn't worked out in the US. It has not worked out anywhere where you attempt to treat one race as different to the others. We must be treated equally in order that we can all make it together, of our own bones, of our own mahi, of our own wairua. If you look at the people who are pushing to create equality, bring equality back to New Zealand, Casey Costello, Winston Peters, Karen Shaw, these are strong Māori who have made equality an important part of New Zealand. And that's what I'd like to put in there anyway.
Thank you, Elliott. Thank you, Dr. Brash, for your submissions. Members will pass to you for any questions for either of the submitters. Willie Jackson.
Oh my goodness, two very troubled individuals on the online today. Elliott, you're going to have come and have a cup of tea with me, I think, mate. I'm really worried after that.
Earl Grey.
And Don, you're getting worse with age. So I want to ask you two, Don, particularly this one, just a couple of questions. And you and I, Don, have talked about these things for many, many years. I don't get the problem you have, Don. Just explain to me, because in terms of the whole democracy argument, you've got a council, Don, that has the right to say no. They've got the right to say no, Don, and in fact, the Auckland Council did that. Isn't that enough in terms of democracy? Why do you say that's not enough? Because if they don't want members, Don, they just, if they don't want Māori seats, they just have to say no. The Auckland Council did it. Why? Just first of all, I just got a couple of questions. First of all, Don or Elliott, why is that not enough?
Because councillors can say no, but we're saying they can't say yes. We're saying you should not be able to create racially based representation, because racially based representation does not work any place and should not be a part of New Zealand culture.
But it's worked here. But it's worked here for many years, Don. It's worked here for many years. We've had Māori seats for many years, and you know, this is a country that works well, doesn't it? Race relations are fine, aren't they?
You know as well as I do, the Maori electorates were created in 1867 for a very good reason. Only men who own property got a right to vote. Maori property being communally owned, they got no vote. But when every adult got a vote, irrespective of their property.
Yeah, and I know the history. I'm trying to find out what the major problem's been, because Elliott's talking like there's some sort of mayhem happening out there in the communities. I don't see that.
Well, you recall the Royal Commission said explicitly in 1986 that if we adopted MMP, you could be confident that Maori would be well represented in Parliament and would no longer need Maori electorates. The same applies to Maori Wards. We don't need them.
But doesn't it, and I'll come to others, I know others want to, so sorry, Mr. Chair, but don't you take away a right in terms of Māori, because you've got Elliott, you might want to answer this. The councils have a right to knock out Māori wards, Elliott, right? They have an opportunity. We voted these councillors in. Why do we have to take away that line of democracy? Tell me, Elliott.
So let me talk on Matua Don first. Matua Don's absolutely right. The idea was the Māori wards were given because Māori had a disability, democratically speaking, and then that was fixed, and then we should have gone on from there. We should not have had the Māori wards from there. They were there to fix a problem. They fixed that problem for a certain time. When Māori then became the individual owners, then great, no problem, then we should have gone on as per normal. This attempt to try to push Māori, any race, to have segregational power is quite disgraceful in terms of a nation that is supposed to be in the modern world, in the modern democracy. We're not supposed to. It hasn't worked anywhere. So your attempt to somehow put segregational power as some sort of right, I think, is quite concerning and is quite radical, as perhaps some of your colleagues have been already.
Okay, thank you both. We will go to a question from Todd Stevenson, then Maria Mino Kapakingi.
Oh, thank you both for making the time to make a submission. I'm pretty sure I'm clear on your position, but I do have a different question. We've heard from some councils that they undertake consultation and they engage with different stakeholders in their community, including iwi and hapu. Would you consider that an appropriate way to still get input into council plans and what they're doing at a local level?
Elliott?
I think that the idea of having anyone to be coming to speak about any sort of submission, whether they be Greenie, whether it be Māori, the iwi or the hapu engaged in it, no worries, great to listen, but not to have segregational power attached to it. That is what is wrong. You should always, for any sort of project or work or any sort of example of any democratic principle, you should have a whole bunch of raft of people, children, disabilities to be able to speak into. Absolutely fine. What you don't do is segregate power based off race.
Okay, thank you both. Question from Maria Mino Kapakingi, and then we've got one from Cameron Brewer.
Thank you. Elliott, look, you heard Don say, and he cited the ceremony and the statement, we all now one people. Would you interpret that as being we are all the same people, which makes culture an irrelevant piece of our makeup? Is that how you would interpret that? We are now one people, meaning we are all the same people?
Well, of course
No,
not.
not at all. No, absolutely not. I would say that we're a great, beautiful mix. And I would actually go to E Pluribus Unum, which is the American motto, from the many one, many different languages, ethnics, foods, cultures, all those wonderful elements. And it comes into one code of law so that we are all treated equally. It's the same. No, we're not a bunch of clones running around or anything like that.
Supplementary to that, what is your understanding and analysis, if any, around Treaty of Waitangi or Treaty of Waitangi? Do you have any? Do you have a lived and a thorough understanding, or even a light understanding of the Treaty of Waitangi and its significance as a founding document?
Well, I don't think it is a founding document. I think it's an important document.
So you have no understanding.
I'm sorry, that's incorrect, and I think perhaps you're showing perhaps a little bit of unknowing elements there to yourself. There are 3 articles, they're not principles, there's 3 articles. And I think that I absolutely love the 3rd article. I think that the 1st article was the cost, the 2nd article is that negotiation element, and the 3rd article is the beautiful one, where we are all to be treated equally, that we've all got the rights and privileges as everyone else. The same rights and privileges, not segregational power.
It's nonsense, tēnā koe.
Thank you both.
Nonsense,
We
right?
will go to a question from Cameron Brewer, and then we'll wrap up this session.
Nice to see you both. Nice to see you, Dr. Brash. Dr. Brash, do you believe that Māori view, Māori participation, Māori engagement is well represented and demonstrated in local government across the country in 2024?
I haven't got absolutely up-to-date numbers, but the last time I saw numbers, the number of Maori councillors on the council was about 13% of the total. At that point, it was slightly short of the percentage of Maori in the population. Of course, on the other hand, in Parliament, on the face of it, Maori are overrepresented. From my point of view, let them be voted on the basis of merit, as is clearly the case in central government.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Brash. Thank you, Elliott, for both joining us this afternoon and providing your...
He's there too provocative. We want more time, James.
Unfortunately, we do have a packed
We
schedule.
need more time with these
They
things.
wouldn't last. They wouldn't make it in the debate, mate.
We'll catch up with you, Mr. Elliott, when we get a chance.
I think there's
It'll be good to have a catch up.
There's clearly an open invitation to
Kia ora.
visit Willie Jackson for a cup of tea.
Absolutely.
Next recess week. But
Thank you.
can I just take time to thank you both and
Yeah,
thank
thank
you all
you.
for your constructive discussion.
Kia ora.
Thank you.
Kia ora.